All righty, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, welcome. It's good to have you all here. So I want to start off by asking a question. What do you know? Go ahead and feel free to unmute yourself and if you'd like to share. Let me let Dan in.
I know I have beliefs, but the beliefs are just constructs. But it's hard to disassociate or dismantle a belief.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you see that there's no you, it's a moot question. I mean, what do you know? That assumes that there's a you there to know something.
Well,
when I inquire and look, thoughts, energy, things come, knowledge comes, but it's just there's no entity to grab onto that.
Yeah, for me, there's still something sticky there. You know, I haven't been able to, get rid of it all. Intellectually, I get it. Experientially, it's not there yet. What did you do to get past that? I mean, a leap of faith or so. I mean, how do you? Or does it just happen if you're lucky?
Just a lot of inquiry and just, we've talked about this before in the past about like coming from the one versus the zero. I don't know if you guys have talked about it for a while, but if you're coming at this problem or seeking from the person, you can't, even saying I'm stuck, I'm not, well, you're coming from that person. So that's the issue. See, so coming from that person is the issue. If you're coming from the awareness, if you understand and realize that you are not the person, you are the stillness that everything happens in, whether it's thoughts or beliefs or, then you're coming from a different perspective and you can just, there's nothing that it holds on to.
So Corey, I like everything, but as you know, we're here, if I hear something, I have to call it.
Call it out.
And I love everything you said, Corey, but let's see if we can dig a little deeper. So even knowing that I'm stillness, knowing that I'm awareness, knowing that I'm consciousness, aren't those all knowings too?
Mm-hmm.
At least intellectually, I've heard the idea that if you say your consciousness, stillness, presence, then there's still an I separate from those qualities or those things.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, it's subtle. And I know for a lot of us, myself included, I went through a period because that's what I was told. We figured, well, they must know. They said, well, there's awareness and that's your true nature. So I guess I'm awareness. But when you look directly, you don't find anything. I don't find awareness. I don't find consciousness. I don't find anything. And even the one who's looking, wouldn't any form of seeking be knowing? I know that I'm a seeker.
I think when you ask a question like that, what do you know? I think it's like an answerless question. I can't really find an answer for it. And that's what I love about this non-dual message that I'm mixed up in with you and a few others. I love it that you ask questions that just leave me sort of speechless or silent or with no answer. I love that because I suppose because all my life has been finding the answer, searching, finding the answer, you know?
Yep. Yeah. Well, that you've just described the activity of the me.
Mm.
That's what me does.
Mm.
Me finds answers.
That's it.
Well, Alan. All right, it's a different Alan. It's not our Alan, but we'll take a chance.
Doesn't know how to spell Alan.
So you can see that this question, what do you know, is a little deeper than at first blush, because what we think we know isn't obvious. Like being a seeker. That's just like, well, I don't get what you guys are talking about, so I'm still seeking. Boom, right there. I know what I am. I'm a seeker. I know something. That's my identity.
So you say, Michael, that sort of brings you up to a full stop and then you don't go any further. But when you ask the question, what do you know? It's like, maybe it's like it doesn't bring you up to a full stop. It's like it's almost like a fathomless pit of, I don't know, maybe, I don't know.
Well, it's not replaced by anything. It's left empty.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And the me never does that. The me's
Yeah.
always looking to fill that slot.
Yeah.
Question needs an answer, right? Question needs an answer.
What do you mean by no?
Good man. Always depend on, don't let me get away with anything, you call it. So let's break it out. What does it mean to know? It's a great question.
Is that a belief? To know, believe? Are they associated?
To be 100% sure.
That's Alan? Was that you, Alan?
Yeah.
To be 100% sure is a type of knowing.
It reminds me of the quote. What is it? It's not the things you don't know, but you think the things you think you know for sure, that just ain't so.
Yeah, but can
It's
you
not the things you know that that you don't know get you in trouble. It's the things you know for sure that just ain't so.
right, but that's still a knowing.
I still like it.
Well, that's well, that's fine.
Would you say it's ever-changing, direct experiencing? Would that be knowing?
Well, I don't have any answers. I'm not sitting here like I'm going to give you guys the answer. We're just looking at the question. This is how I work. I just bring up something and I sit with it. So I'm just taking you guys sort of inside my, what I do. So I just ask the question, but I don't know the answer.
Well, that's a different interpretation of the word though, right? I mean, the eternal knowing is just more like experience than what you're trying to get at, which is some sort of certainty.
I didn't even define it anyway. I'm just saying what is knowing, or you did. You said what is knowing. So we're just looking at which if you think about it, you never do in society. When is the last time somebody has asked you, well, what do you mean by no? Right? Like no one ever asks us that. It's a beautiful question. It kind of gets at the linchpin of the identity of the me, because the me is made of knowing, right? All these things I know, I have this history and I know my family and I know, but we're gonna shine a flashlight and see if you really do know anything.
I think I know something. I think I know that there's more to all of this than meets the eye.
You
You
could
know-
argue that's an assumption, though.
Yep, good. Was that James?
Oh,
Thank you, James. James saved me from saying it.
I don't know that it is.
Well, let's look at it. That's why we're here. There's no wrong or right, guys. So jump in. You got to get your feet wet. Go
I mean,
for
you
it.
can't completely know anything anyway, because if I know Dan, I don't know everything about Dan. I mean, there's no way to 100% know everything about anything.
Right. That's the normal. So, right, Corey. So that would be,
You know,
most people would agree with that. Yeah, you can't know everything about anything. But that's not what I'm asking. I'm saying, forget knowing everything. I'm asking if you know anything.
Yeah, that was kind of my point, because if that is the case, then you can't know anything.
Can't know everything, you can't know anything.
I don't see how that follows.
Go ahead,
Because
Alan.
everything is the whole picture.
What's your, can you clarify, Alan? I didn't quite get what your meaning is.
Oh, okay. So it seems like the claim was that because we can't know everything, that means we can't know anything. And I'm saying I just don't see how that follows.
Every science is a mutilated octopus. If you're going to try to dissect it, then you're cutting it up.
Well, that's what knowledge does, right? Knowledge takes this moment and breaks it up into things. So we can say computer screen, we can say table, we can say apartment. We can divide this up into different knowings. So everything you know is a little compartment. It's solid. This is a table. It's solid. It's a thing. I know what it is. It feels very real to me. Is any of that true?
Well, we don't know what it is, but we call it a table. It's a label.
Okay, that's great. That's a lot different than knowing what it is. So for functionality, this seems to hold all my stuff very nicely. This table seems to function very well. But the minute I think I know anything, so we can say in relative daily life, things seem to function as they function. But do we know what anything is? That's tonight's question.
No, we just have labels and we're all, have an agreement on meanings that it's like language is a conspiracy, it's like we all agree that that's called a table. And that's what when we see one, we all call it that. I don't know what it is, but it holds you stuff. We give it a name so we can, dialogue and reference things.
Who gives it a name?
We do. I mean, I do. I use language to communicate. So I just use that word that was told to me, and that's why we call it a table. I mean, if I was talking Chinese, I'd be using a different word.
Right, but here comes the $64 question,
Here
guys.
we go.
Here's the $64 question. Joan, who's talking right now?
I don't know.
So if there's
Yep.
no Joan, how she know to do that thing with her mouth that sounds like table?
Yeah, but how do you know Joan's doing that?
I
Beats the
feel
hell
like
out of me.
I feel like you need to define the term of knowing, because you referred before about that the table that's before you holds your stuff nicely and you can knock it. So through your experience, you perceive that there's something in front of you which you've termed a table, or which is commonly described as a table. So if you're going to call it anything beyond experience, then and going to call that knowing, then you've got to define what that is.
Do I have to define it to be able to put my stuff on it? It
No,
seems
but
like
I suppose in using it, you don't need, it's like a car. You don't need to understand how a car works to be able to use it. The inner goings of the pistons and, combustion, all that. So we live on assumptions, I suppose, through life. Assumptions about the most basic is our sense of self, which, if it exists or doesn't, it's an assumption, in the same way I suppose we use so many things in life as an assumption.
yeah.
To me, it's a matter of scale, right? I mean, we know at the small scale, things are a big mystery. And we know at a big scale, things are a huge mystery. And we know that there can't really be a boundary to stuff going out. And we can't comprehend that there can't be a boundary to stuff going out. So space and time become meaningless. We can know everything in a relative sense in a way that we can communicate about table, but the underlying gestalt of it all and what it all means, which I think is what you're asking when you say, do you know, which gets to issues like, what are we? Those things we can't know. I mean, we use language about the table and it works just fine, right? But that's not really what we're trying to get at.
I really, this sounds so devious. I really want you to be uncomfortable, because I want it to hit you that you don't know what you think you know. Something inside you will begin to, you're like, oh, there's assumptions upon it, like you were saying, somebody was saying layers upon layers of assumption. In other words, you might not recognize an assumption, and then another time, suddenly it may be obvious. So we're just looking at what beliefs, what I think I know, because here the message is there's nothing knowable and there's no one to know it. That's the only one smiling.
I think the litmus test is, are you suffering? If you're suffering or you're in pain, then there's probably the assumption of the person and some other assumptions as well. So.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, Dale.
Yeah. So go. I'm sorry. You go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So what we're actually saying here, just trying to cut to the chase or to make it really directly simple, is that there's a bunch of stuff that we're all assuming. I'm assuming that I know. Essentially, the main thing is I assume that I know that I'm a separate person. I'm having an experience that is not sufficient. It's not good enough. And there's something I can do to make it okay. That's the central thing. And I'm saying I know that. And then I'm proceeding from there. So what we're saying is that's where the suffering's coming from, because I don't know that. Nobody knows that, because that isn't true. But we are all assuming that as knowledge. And that's what can be seen. So then we can go back and look, what do I know? And what am I really knowing? What am I busy knowing that I'm not noticing that I'm knowing? I'm holding this. That's another way of saying what, because Chuck asked a minute ago, what does knowing mean? So it means that I'm holding, I'm assuming a position. I'm holding a position. And I'm holding all this stuff, not for any reason. I'm just holding it, not because I've found out that it's true. Because there isn't anything that's true. There is no position that is true. That's the whole thing. But there's this holding. So not knowing means there's no holding. I'm open hands, everything's coming and going. And I'm not keeping any of it for myself. So hopefully that, I don't know, what do you guys think?
You have an open table.
Yeah. But we don't come into the room with an open table. We come into the room already with a bunch of stuff that we're saying, I know. And I know this, and I'm going to use this knowledge to get my life okay. Which is always going to distract me from this one fact that everything is only okay, just as it is. And that little, just tiny bit of knowledge that it's not okay and I can make it okay is what prevents me from seeing the okayness.
To me, I think that's all true and very beautiful. But it also doesn't end there, you know.
Good.
You know,
Let's
you
get
don't.
into the but. The but is where that's what we all came here to talk about or to deal with. Go.
Maybe you're the only one in the world, Dan. Maybe you're the only consciousness. Maybe you could decide who's the next president. Maybe it's all about you. How do you know?
I'm not getting. No, but you said
it's not only inside that we don't know, it's outside that we don't know. We don't know the boundaries of our capabilities. Are the capabilities that are out there that spring forth from whatever this energy that's passing through us is.
We don't know that there's energy passing through us. We don't know that there's an inside or an outside.
Right.
So
The outside gets interesting. Don't neglect the outside.
Right.
In that whole equation.
So a little thing to notice is story. Because story is never about what's actually just this, without a story. Just this right here. Whatever feelings you're feeling, whatever sensations happening, nobody's doing that. You're not doing it. I'm not doing it.
So is that something that you know?
No. No.
I love what Dan was saying, but even before he spoke, what I was thinking to say is that, and it's a bit funny because I'm going to use the word no. I don't know. Oh, I've forgotten my train of thought. But the thing is, I know that when I don't know, when I somehow operate from a place of don't know, there's freedom. When I know something and then somehow that restricts me totally. But if I somehow switch to I don't know, there's freedom. It's just that simple.
Probably a lot more freedom than you know.
Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Yeah, and there's Faith, there's a very good reason for it, because if you think about knowledge, it puts a fence around words. So we have science is a form of knowledge. We have, entertainment, we have sports, we have all these different categories. So that's a limitation.
Mhm.
Not knowing is not defined. It's not limited. It's free. It's open. Life is doing, you don't have a life. You're not making this happen.
But I think the me doesn't like that, because to the me, that's a loss of control. I have to know something because that gives me that.
All right. Well, I told you. Yeah, but Corey, is it really a loss of control, or is it a control the me never had?
There's not even a me to begin with, but
Yeah.
coming from the one, that's what.
Yeah. So I'm not saying there's not the appearance of control. It appears that when you go to the refrigerator and open it up, you're deciding what you're going to eat. It does appear that way. But to know that you're the one deciding why you picked, the watermelon and not the apple, you can't know. You just went with the watermelon because that's what you felt like having in that moment. And the me says, I did that. But if you look, it's empty. There's no one inside there. There's no person inside there making decisions. Everything's just happening spontaneously, like magic. And
So the me,
go ahead.
sorry,
Faith. No,
I
go
was just
ahead.
going. So the me is a credit taker. I think you've said that before. Yeah.
And it's a blamer. It's a no-win. It's a complete lose-lose, because if I'm the me, I think I have control. But listen, guys, control doesn't come empty-handed. Never. Control always comes with guilt and blame. Because maybe I didn't do a good enough job. Maybe I didn't say this, but I thought of something better I could have said. I kind of screwed it up. So I'm feeling a little guilty. So that's the problem with thinking that you're the controller. There's no freedom in that.
Yeah, that's the problem with thinking because I'm the sort of personality that has had to deal with a lot of the guilt and the blame. It's self-blame and guilt and that sort of thing. But when I get hit with an attack of that, if I say I don't know, that's when the freedom opens up. It's about the story too, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry.
The thing about knowledge is that knowledge is only good for using.
Yeah.
Knowledge is something I can do something with. That's why I want knowledge. But there isn't anything there isn't anything to do for freedom. Freedom's already here. So knowledge is only good just to be used. Well, if I'm going to use it, I'm going to use it within the story. And it's going to be the me in the story that's going to use its knowledge. And again, that's the hamster wheel we're all familiar with. So knowledge never applies if we're talking about freedom. There is no knowledge that can be used for, The knowledge game is about using, which is another word for control. It means I'm going to do something about my experience to make it better, to get it to the place it needs to be.
So the first bit of knowledge I have is that I know that I'm here.
Huh?
But by here,
Right? Right? Charles.
What?
Right now, in this moment, see, I was saying this stuff, it's not obvious. You have to really sit with it. I know that I'm here. That's a knowing.
I don't know,
assume
man.
that by here, you don't mean here in your room, right? Do you mean a different
Where-
kind of here?
Wherever you think Alan is right now.
See, I would say experience is happening. I wouldn't say I know I'm here.
As long as you're referring to the I, not the me, I think, yeah, you could say that.
I'm sorry, Matt,
Yeah.
say that again.
Oh, when you say I am here, as long as your reference of I is not the self, that's the conditioned mind, but it's the I that's the experiencer underneath, the awareness.
Right. So just to go back to Charles, so if all you know is that experience is happening, you don't know anything else, then that's freedom. Because there's no room for a problem there, right? There's just experience happening. So you're free, right? We can excuse Charles from this whole thing, unless there's some knowledge that's being held, that's creating a story of Charles in an experience that has to do something to make it better. Because experience just happening is just what is, right? There's nothing to do with that. And there's nowhere to go. There's no person who needs to find something, find some answer, or do something, right?
The word experiencing is because it implies that you're the experiencer.
Right.
And there's your knowing. I'm the one that's having the experience, me. And we're back into subject object again.
Hmm.
So that's the thing about knowing, is whenever there's a knower, there has to be something it knows. Two things, right? There's an I that knows. I know this, I know that.
That's just language, though. That's just how we break it down in terms of language. It doesn't have to be that way. That's just our conception of it. If experience is happening, there doesn't have to be a no. The experience is the object. We just have to, it's the limitations of language.
If experience is the object, like you said, then there has to be a subject.
Not really. I don't think so. You know,
Well,
There's just
object
a magic-
object implies subject.
that's an illusion. There's no, I mean, that breaks the bonds of of non-duality already. You've got,
Right. That's my point.
All right. I want to keep going because I've just scratched the surface. I'm just beginning with you people. Do you know other people? Do you really know other people?
I got two thoughts to that. First, what do you mean by knowing? And second, I feel like I can recognize people that are familiar.
But do you know them? Do you know who they are?
No, just
mean like a
perceptual.
pattern?
yes.
Good. Let's shake it up. Okay, Charles, so you say yes. So what do you know of other people?
Well, I know they're the same thing I am. I know that we're all one. I know that any sort of differentiation between us is an illusion. I can feel that.
But yet there are some people that you're more attracted to than others, or some people you can have certain conversations with that you can't with others.
No, but you guys, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you've never known anyone. So when you think you're thinking about someone else, and I don't care if it's someone you've known your whole life, you've only ever been looking at whose thoughts? So what have you really ever known but your own thoughts?
That's really heavy.
And scary.
It's like everything's a projection. Are you implying everything's a projection?
I'm not implying anything.
There is no Michael.
Well, it's the same thing applies with knower and known, as subject and object.
Now,
But it all goes through the me filter. Everything goes through the me filter.
hold on, we're not done.
Boy, you're kicking us off the ledge tonight.
Yeah, high time. So I think some of you got a sense of that question when I said, can you really know another person? Or are you just ever knowing your own thoughts? Now, maybe you can see where I'm going with this. Not only do you not know others, but you don't even know yourself.
So the me, we came to the fact that the me is the one who knows, but all the me can know is its own thoughts. It can never know anything except for my thoughts. If I want to find out what a person is or what anything is, I have to go to the book of thoughts and find the right page and it'll tell me. It's a very archaic, I don't think we have books anymore, but anyway. So that's what I'm saying. None of that applies to reality. It only applies to the world of thoughts. And that's why I never get what I'm looking for, because I'm looking for this. I'm looking for the real stuff. And I keep going back to the thoughts to find the real stuff, to find this, the real gold. And I never get it. I keep grabbing it. You know, all I get is thoughts. That's the me. But everything is here. It's all here, but not as a thought, not as something that I'm going to, some answer that I'm going to get in the next future time. Because that's all thought. Future is thought. All my knowledge is thought. Everything I know, everything. So through all that.
That's not it though, Dan. You know, it's not just your thoughts. It's your experience. It's your consciousness. It's your
Right.
witnessing.
What can you tell me about experience?
Why would I bother to tell you anything about experience?
Well, okay, it's like a minute ago you said, okay, yeah, that's all very good. I agree with everything you said, but there's something you're not dealing with.
Right.
Saying that. That's kind of what you're coming back to. So,
Well, I think it was a different topic, but you know, I mean, I mean, when we say thoughts, we're thinking of it's this shit that bubbles up in the form of words that, you know, table, I'm me, all of these kind of conditioning, but experience is a very different thing. Experience and consciousness and awareness. I mean, you know the drill, right? That's
well,
beyond thought.
experience is what is.
Right.
And then there's the story that I can tell about experience, which is just going to be thoughts,
Right.
right?
Right.
We're not talking about story here. No story can define what this is. No story. And you guys can get a sense of how wedded the me is to its concepts. It does not want to give them up because my knowledge is my stability. I've built this illusory world in my mind, and it's all I can do to keep it together. It's exhausting. What if that was just a complete fantasy and you don't need to do anything? That somebody said that to me. They say, I was saying to, I don't know, did anybody see my interview for Nothing FM I did with Lucia? Yeah, if you haven't seen, pardon me?
Her name's it's Luciana, but go ahead.
Luciana, yeah, thank you, with Luciana.
Did you post it on Facebook?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's in the my non-duality community on Facebook, and it's also on YouTube. We had a really lovely conversation. And one of the things I was talking about was exactly this, how knowledge is, it's a definition and it's limited. So if you think about it, every word is a little limitation. And we take these little limitations and we string them together into sentences and call them stories. And then what do? We completely ignore this, what's here now. And we get lost in the story in our imagination. And what we're looking for, as Dan pointed out, is this, what's here right now, but it's so fucking ordinary. It's just this. It is the table. It is the computer. It is my voice. This is it. This is it. This is all that's going on.
Well, Michael, I'm in pain, and so I don't want this moment.
So the pain is what is. There's no denial of the pain. This is not about denial. The pain is the pain. And you know what, Ron? If the pain sucks and you're hating it, which is completely understandable, then that's what's arising.
Happening.
That's it.
Yeah, that's obvious.
What I'm saying, though, is even not liking it is part of what's arising. So there's only ever what's arising. This message is not saying that you have to like what's arising. You can not like something. That's completely fine.
I think Eckhart Tolle said, you know, if you don't accept something, if you can accept your non-acceptance.
One thing you said to me in our private that really stuck with me, you know, I'd heard it many, many times, but consciousness doesn't care. No, doesn't care whether you're in pain, whether you're happy, whether you're sad.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't use the word consciousness now. I would just, probably the closest I would just say would be life. Life does all. There's only life. So life and life is just a word. You can pick any, it doesn't matter the word because the word is in it, right? Because we don't have a word for everything, right? Everything that's apparent. We don't have a word for everything and nothing. And that's the part the me ignores, is the nothing. And so for the me, everything feels real. And as a result, it's very serious, to the me. Life is it's very, and it's heavy and it's no fun. And it's certainly not, a very good time because I'm so busy trying to get my life to work. And this message is hopeless. It's not even really hopeless. I say hopeless, but it's not really hopeless. It's simply as it is.
Is that the realization that, like, part of sort of awakening to the truth of life, for lack of better words, is that sort of realizing that the whole world that we think we know conceptually doesn't exist, and all that exists as life is that which we can directly experience? So like I can see to the end of my street, but that's all I really know, for lack of better words. Beyond that, I will know once I actually get to the end of the street.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Very good, Matt. So the way I say it is there is no world. The idea that there's a world or that I'm in the world, no. All you ever have experienced is just what's happening right here. So if you want to call this the world, but the world's a concept. It's like this.
Thing is, there's no, about the world or life or whatever we want to call it, there's no alternative. It is what it is. So the me has this fantasy that I can make this different. There's all these possibilities, and I can use my knowledge, my power, whatever, to make this world into something else. And then so I get lost in that fantasy, this imagination, and that just takes me away from what is. And then I just experience this separation from what is all the time. And it's not that complicated. What is just what is, and there is no alternative. There's nothing I can do about it. There's no one that can do anything.
Thanks, Dan. That is so important. If we're gonna close out here in a few minutes, I would love to underscore what Dan said, because for me, this was super helpful. So I just want to pass it on. The realization that there is no past. There is no future. All you've ever experienced is this. And in this, a thought of a past can arise and a thought of a future can arise. But only has there ever been this. You've never experienced a past. You've never been in the past. All you have are memories appearing now, here. And we can't even say what now and here is. So even now and here have to go. Just this. There's just what's happening. Full stop.
So I get that we can't know that there's a past and future, but I'm not seeing why it then must be the case that there actually is no past and future.
Well, can you show it to me? Can you show me the past?
No, I can't. So I don't, so I don't know that there's a past, but I don't think that means that there actually is no past.
Okay.
Well, Alan, let's say maybe there is a past, but if that past exists, it exists as a thought. So is a thought real, is the question.
That thought might be wrong. It's
Well,
not,
on
it's
top
not
of
real,
that-
it might be wrong.
It's a thought.
It's not a matter of right and wrong. The
Yeah.
thought is different depending on the thing it's being filtered through. So just to look back at your own childhood, your memory of something, your thought about something will be different than your mother's thought about it, than your dad's thought about it, than your siblings thought about it. Like that, it doesn't exist anywhere in one form because it's only a thought filtered through a whole bunch of other thoughts.
The story.
It's your own baggage, which you can drop.
Well, the point is, it's a story, and it doesn't apply to you because you're not a story. You're not a character in a story. You're real. And the only thing that's real is this. That doesn't
Die.
have a thought or a story to it.
Die. The only thing that's real is this that doesn't die. So everything we think is real is crumbling. Everything in the world is impermanent. It's all crumbling. And that's what we spend all our attention on, completely overlooking the emptiness.
Including the death of our bodies.
Yeah, but you won't be there when your body dies.
Says you.
Point.
How do you know?
Because you're just here.
I think I will be here when my body dies. I
Okay.
think I was here before I was born. I think I'm sitting there in that chair, in that room that you're in.
So
Okay.
I'll leave you with this, unless we have any more comments or question. I'd love to hear from anybody. But even the idea, yeah, just second, Faith, that the thoughts are yours. These are my thoughts. Really? Are they your thoughts?
I don't know if this will relate. So I had this thought yesterday about a sense of self, and the sense of self is very much like the internet, that we all pay for the internet, we all believe it exists, but if you ever try and actually get the internet, all you can find are wires and a web page of Google, or you might go to another web page and a computer, so you can never actually, and all those things are kind of similar to perceptions and feelings and emotions. They're all things that the physical experience, like or sensation, can relate to like a cable for the internet. But if you actually try and get the sense of self, or you try and get the internet, you can't actually find it.
Yeah, very good. That's nice, Matt. And you can apply
Good
that.
analogy.
You can apply that to everything. So that's the Buddhist emptiness teachings, that everything's inherently empty. So there's no flower. You know, if you see a daffodil, there's no daffodil in a daffodil. Right? Just what you were saying. If I go over to a yellow daffodil, and where am I going to find the daffodil? In fact, we can go back to our tonight's analogy of table. I'm looking at the table, but I can't find a table in it. That's what it means that everything's inherently empty. Everything depends on everything else to support it being there. So you can't have stars without a sky. You know, everything depends on something else. You can't take anything out of the equation. You can't, what could you remove from this moment? It's already whole. And that's the message that Dan and I were sharing, is this moment is already whole. So all this work that the me is doing to try and get whole is for nothing. Because it's already the case. Life is already whole. It's a dream. That you need to become whole, that you need to become enlightened, is a dream, a personal dream. There is no one to become enlightened. Life doesn't need. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, there really can't be a discussion about knowledge without me thinking of the beginning of the Bible, where it talks about Adam and Eve, and they ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
Right in the good book.
Don't believe us, believe Yahweh.
The good book.
Big mistake.
Yeah, the tree of knowledge. There it is.
That was the original sin,
Yeah.
was it not? That they left what, the Garden of Eden or something, because they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah.
So to me that says, stay there, don't eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's creating a me and feeding a me.
So
So
the first thing they did, they
Faith,
figured out they didn't have any clothes on. Had to get some clothes on.
Faith, this is so beautiful what you're saying, because the Garden of Eden is right here.
Yeah.
This is it. This is heaven. But as soon as I know something, then it becomes hell.
Yeah.
Garden of Eden is right here, and the me is busy chowing down on the apple.
That's it. Yeah.
But where are you? That's the real question. Which one are you?
Going down on the apple, trying to, yeah, the me's out collecting more apples. It is. No, that's really good, because we're taught knowledge is good and more knowledge is better. It's my safety. It's my security, says the me.
Well, that's why people say the older they get, the more they know. And in reality, the older I get, the less I know.
Because you get wise.
You realize how little you know. When your perception expands, you realize you know nothing. But when your perception's really tiny, you think you know everything.
What you may discover is you don't need to know. And that's the freedom. It's so hard, right? It's so hard to say, I don't know. You rarely hear it. When's the last time you've heard a politician say, I don't know? Don't hear it.
Ever.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful, because not knowing, then everything's possible. It's so beautiful. We're so afraid of not knowing, but it's so benevolent. It's so neutral. It's so peaceful to not know. Because knowing doesn't come empty-handed either, because if I know something and someone disagrees with me, then I have to defend.
Or a belief, and then someone else can come with a different belief.
Yep.
And the ego always wants to be right.
So again, I'll leave you with the contemplation. You've never known anyone, and that includes yourself. Thank you, everyone, so much for coming this evening. It was great. It was awesome. It was a little fiery. It's perfect.
Not far enough.
Corey, thank you for
We're gonna blame you,
donation last
Corey.
week, brother. I appreciate it. You guys have a great night, and I will try and get this up on YouTube in the next 24 to 48 hours. Thank you, everybody.
Everyone, namaste.
Thank
It was so good. Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.